good evening, everybody. How's everybody doing this evening? Hello there, Chris. How are you?
Hello, hello.
Hello, Penny
Happy
Van.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Cold Monday, Brian Barber. You cracked me up with your little message you sent me. Gary Spikes. And let's see, everybody's starting to stack in. Gene Hudson. Nice to have everybody. Welcome. So, tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we have a special guest here. We have Charlotte. I'm going to go ahead and bring her in. Welcome, Charlotte. How are you doing?
I'm good, but it's okay. I have to correct you.
I know. As soon as I said it, I caught myself.
It's not Charlotte. It's
I know.
Nancy.
As soon as I said it.
I said, but most people in the paranormal know me as Wick and Vixen.
That is correct.
More by my nickname than I am by my actual name. But Charlotte's it's because Facebook.
Right.
It was a ghost account for me. And when I got deplatformed under my actual name, I just went over to the ghost account. Apparently, they do not like my opinions on Facebook.
No, they're very, very opinionated. So I totally.
You and a lot of other people.
Yeah, highly opinionated.
Well, it's nice to have you. So introduce yourself.
Well, as I said, my name is actually Nancy Planeta, or Wiccan Vixen, as I'm known in the paranormal. I've been in the paranormal fields for now it's between 25 and 30 years. Early on, I built, ran, and owned the chat room on the IRC for the show Ghost Hunters. I worked with everybody on Ghost Hunters for multiple years, actually almost 8 years in total. Came out of that, I did background research for Ancient Aliens. I have several very good friends who participate on the show. Scotty Roberts is actually one of my oldest and dearest friends, so it's kind of nice. I also have done and run my own radio show on multiple different networks since 2006. Initially, I was doing my show under the name Vixen's Vault, which I still am asked to bring back here and there, but I'm already involved with another show called the All New Cafe Enigma, which I had actually done years ago and started doing again. And then I did another show called Game Theory. My husband and I actually did that show for several years. In fact, we were talking about all the things that are happening right now. We were talking about that 10 years ago and telling people. So it was basically conspiracies that we knew were going to manifest because they weren't conspiracies in the negative sense. They were actual conspiracies, what conspiracy is by definition. So yeah, like I said, I've been in the fields of the paranormal for a very, very, very long time. I'm known most especially for my knowledge in the occult. As you can probably tell by my nickname, Wiccan Vixen. I always kind of laugh because people very much misnomer what I am all the time. They make this assumption that it's got to do with evil or devil worship or hedonism, and that's completely incorrect. I do adhere to very, very, very ancient beliefs, and I don't actually I'm not a Wiccan in the truest sense. That was just a great alliteration. I said that it's a catchy nickname. That's why I am a witch by definition, but the Wiccan Vixen, that just fit. That was very catchy. It was easy to remember. It was great for entertainment purposes and for chat room purposes. It worked. People don't forget that name. But it doesn't encompass who or what I am. So but I've spent, like I said, in Florida, I'm a go-to person when somebody has a case that involves something they believe is occult, or if they need information on the occult. Cryptids, I've been involved in the cryptozoology. I think like Lauren Coleman, I've known Lauren for years, literally years. Had a case long, long time ago that involved Mothman. So got to know him very well. Used to date a guy whose mother was actually a victim of the Mothman curse. So she was actually on Lauren Coleman's list. Yeah. So it was the way I interact with people in this field is really interesting because it seems to be a trip and fall on my face type of deal where it happens completely by accident. But even Art Bell had initially, I had several conversations with him because he wanted me to co-host his new show. And I actually turned him down which stunned a lot of my friends and it stunned my husband. But he wanted somebody who would, I guess you could say, put a Hollywood and a commercial twist to what I am. And I refused to do that. So I was like, I'm not about selling spells. I'm not about misusing. I am not about teaching people to control energy when they're going to misuse it. I'm not a priestess who goes out and tries to bring followers in. That's not what I do. I mean, to me, if you have a sincere belief and you truly believe it in your soul and you follow the dictates of your belief, that makes you a pure soul to me. I respect that. I don't expect you to believe as I believe. You haven't lived my life. You haven't walked in my shoes. So Art and I kind of bonked heads in the end, and I actually gave him the name of another witch, who I was like, first of all, have no problem working with you, but I'm one of these people. I'm not going to budge on that because that's my soul that has to pay for that in the end. So not willing to sacrifice. And you and I worked together, Grizzly, because I'm also known as a prophetic dreamer as well as a very strong sensitive. So
Yes.
and like I said, it's something I don't enjoy doing. When I work on things like we did with the detective case, I do not enjoy having my energy meld with an energy where something very tragic's happened. But I'll do it. I mean, I like I said, I sucked it up and worked on it that day, but it's not something I like doing. We'll put it that way.
It's totally understandable. Yes, it really is.
I'm always there to help people. Like I said, I will, if I can help, I will do so. I also will never, I'm one of these people, I never ever, I don't feel it's right to profit in any way, shape, or form for what I do or who I am. To me, it puts a very imbalanced twist into the dynamics of what you're doing. If somebody is paying you to help them or to trace something, there is now, as I like to say, a reason for you to come up with an answer. What a sensitive is and what we do, 99% of the time, you have to be able to let your gut lead you. The things that come out are they're not pre-thought, they're just coming out because they don't, as I told you when we were on the air that day, it doesn't belong. If there's information inside me that I know is not mine, yep, that's the information that needs to go forth. When somebody's paying you money, you're now under a stress to get an answer that's going to please them. So I won't do it. Like I said, I'll be the first one to volunteer to help, but no, I won't do it for commercial reasons. I won't do it for anything beyond trying to get somebody to a peaceful resolution.
That's a good way to look at things, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very honorable.
It's about bringing balance. I always say that. Even the ghost hunting, I always say it's about bringing balance. I mean, when I'm out ghost hunting, they always laugh at me because they're like, everything lights up like a light bulb. You go to a location and it would be dead as a doornail. And as soon as you walk in, things start popping off. And I'm like, well, it's because I think they like me. Because if they do something random, I'll be like, knock it off. I mean, I talk to them like I would my kids. It's just, I'm very nonchalant about things. I don't get frightened very easily. I know people have said to me, well, have you ever encountered anything evil? I'm like, I have never encountered anything that's stronger than I am, period. End of sentence. And I think that's a very important way to be when you're in these fields. You have to have a lot of confidence in who you are. You have to know your weaknesses and your strengths. You have to be very honest with yourself about who you are. So in other words, if you're in a bad mood or you've had a bad day, it's not a good idea to go into a paranormal environment because your energy is kind of all over the place and you're a little bit more susceptible than normal. But yeah, like I said, that's a little bit about me.
Well, that's true. That's a good way to look at things, I believe. So, yeah.
I used to tell my people in chat when I owned the Ghost Hunters chat, because that was a chat I owned. I mean, I had 50 moderators that I had working for me in that chat, and they were all volunteers. And every single one of them showed up every day. They were great people. In fact, I'm still in touch with a lot of them. But I used to tell them, if you've had a fight with your husband or wife, or your child is driving you nuts, or your dogs are annoying you, or you have a headache, do not come into the chat. Period. Why? We can still monitor, we can still moderate. No, you can't. Why? Because I can feel your energy. and it's really annoying. And if I can feel it, other people in here can feel it. It's very disruptive. So if you're in a bad mood, you're going to make bad decisions. You're going to make very abrupt decisions, and most likely not the most rational decisions. So I'm all about mediation and balance. So take the night off.
Makes total sense. Brian had a question. And I was kind of thinking the same thing. Circle back to that Mothman. Tell us a little bit about that. I want
That's
to know more.
fascinating.
Yeah, it
Okay,
is.
well, want to know about what happened to me personally? Because I had a personal experience. Yeah.
Okay.
I
Tell us all of
actually,
it.
and it was weird because it happened before I dated the guy whose mother. It was the most random set of events. I was on my way to West Virginia. Literally at that time, it was a guy I was dating before this guy, but his grandfather was dying in a little town in West Virginia that was a little bit to the west of Point Pleasant. So we were making the drive from Florida to get up there. We get to West Virginia, and you have to understand, I think it's the most beautiful. The majestic mountains are absolutely gorgeous, but we're getting into the Point Pleasant area, and we're coming up a road that was very snake-like, and it was pretty much dirt. And as we're coming around one of the bends, and literally we're heading out to try to get around, because the hospital his grandfather was in was actually in Point Pleasant. I get this like a loud voice in my head, pull over. And I'm like, what the hell? This is me. What the hell? And I'm like, I'm like, okay, maybe I'm just tired. I try to look for every normal explanation I can. And then it happened again, pull over. And so I looked at him and I was like, you need to pull off now. And he says, oh, no, we're fine. We're almost there. And I don't know what made me do, but I reached over and I pulled the steering wheel, got us and pulled us off the road. No sooner were we off the road, a semi truck came barreling around the corner and literally was on our side of the road. So if we had not pulled off when we did, we would have been eviscerated by that truck, believe me. And my kids were in the car. So it wasn't just, I remember we all just sat in the car like, oh my God, we knew. Wow. Then we realized the road where we pulled over, there's like this road going this way. And I'm looking and I'm like, wait a minute, because this was before GPS, guys. This is when we did cartography. We actually had maps. Pull out the atlas and I'm looking, I go, wait, this is like a back road. This will lead us right around to the back side of the hospital. We'll probably get there faster. Took that road, pull into the hospital, and literally he gets out and he's like, okay, I'm going to go inside. You just make sure, because the kids were sleeping. He's like, you want to stay out here with them until, okay. So he goes hefting inside. I am not joking. He literally got into the room, saw his grandfather, said, I love you. His grandfather passed away, like within a minute and a half of him being in the room and saying, I love you. So it was a set of circumstances that were very strange. And at this point, I had no idea what Point Pleasant was. I just knew that something very strange had happened. And here's the thing, folks. I was already used to strange things happening in my life. That's been happening since I was a child. But this was the first time where I literally felt, I don't even know if it was me that yanked that steering wheel. It was just a movement. It was so impulsive. That's not like me. Especially not with my kids in the car. I would never normally do something like that. So literally to make long story short, he decided to go back to the house where his grandfather lived to see his sister, who was there at that time. I had decided to go into town to grab a few things for my kids. Went into town, and again, I have never gone into it. It's to this day, all the haunted locations I've been to, all of the paranormal places I've been. I have literally, guys, I climbed Tikaboo Peak out at Area 51. So I have been to the front and back gate at Area 51. I have done many things in my lifetime that are in very active areas, very paranormally known areas.
Mm-hmm.
Point Pleasant in the downtown area. I guess you could say I've never been to a location that made me feel a void. Like it was a void.
Huh.
I never, ever felt that way before, and I've never felt that way again. It was
Does that
like
mean
walking in,
like no energy, or I mean,
it was like it shouldn't have been there. It like
hmm,
it was like fake. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like I felt like it was fake. Like there was no, it was something was, I didn't feel any human energy. You know what I mean? It's, how do I put this? There's a kinetic feel. I'm very empathic. There's a very kinetic feel to locations. Each one is very individual, like St. Augustine. St. Augustine is like time walking. It has an incredibly kinetic feel to it, but it's a very old feel to it. Like I
like
can
New
literally,
Orleans is another one, right?
oh, no,
Yeah.
actually, more so than New Orleans, St. Francisville in Louisiana. Oh my God,
Hmm.
that was like stepping back in time. Key West is another one. Very strong energy in Key West. Key West, I always feel like I'm walking in a battleground though. I like it down there, but it is very much like walking in a battleground. But this place, there was nothing. I mean, and you looked in people's eyes. I'll never forget it because some people you could absolutely, they were normal, but it was like there was nothing. Look in their eyes and it was like a void.
Hmm.
And that's very unsettling to somebody like me because generally when I meet somebody where I can't gauge by looking in their eyes, they're psychopathic or sociopathic. You have a choice. So this was like a whole town where almost everybody you walked into, that's what you were getting. And again, you have to understand, I had no idea about what Mothman was, who Mothman was, what that was all about yet. Now, I did see the statue and I was like, why is there a fairy? No joke. Why is there a fairy in the park? Oh, that's not the fairy. That's not fairy. That's Mothman. I'm like, why is there a superhero in the park? No, it's not a superhero. So, I mean, no joke. It's being very, very serious right now. This is what I was saying. But I can tell you, even down by the Ohio River, I knew something very, very violent had happened. You can feel it. It still comes off the water. And there's one thing I will tell you about water. That's why a lot of people with paranormal activity, a lot of people will tell you, oh, this happened to me in the bathroom. Oh, this happened to me in the kitchen. Oh, the basement. There's very common areas that people have experiences. A lot of times it's because there's plumbing. And I always tell people that's why Jay and Grant with the Ghost Hunters, they were like, oh, how did two plumbers end up in that field? Well, because water conducts energy. It's a really simple scientific fact. There's a lot of haunted locations that are out in the water. So it's why? Because they strengthen and it allows them to conduct better. They can move around better. So here I am at the Ohio River going, okay, something really bad happened here. I could feel it. Never got the definition of what Mothman was until a couple years later, and I was dating somebody else. And I was at that time I was working with Jay and Grant. They were at the end of doing Fear. I don't know if you guys knew that, but they helped produce the show Fear on MTV.
Yes.
So we were basically, I had met him through that, and I said, what was your draw into this? Why are you in this? Because you question each other when you meet new people and what brought you into this field? And I think with me, it was always kind of try to gauge who's a player, who's in this for notoriety, who's in this for the entertainment. I try to like categorize people in the field because I want to know who the people are who are really seriously looking for answers. Those are the people I want my friends to be because I want to learn from them. Because if they're seeking the answers the same way I am, they're looking at science, they're looking at history, they're looking at construction, they're looking at nature, they're looking at everything but the entertainment. And a lot of times, even the legends. Because, I say when you go to a location like the Myrtles, I've stayed at the Myrtles multiple times in St. Francisville. you will get a history from the people who run the Myrtles, but it's not true. It's not accurate. And if you try to go back and actually catalog that history, you're going to find that they've added a lot of things to that history that don't belong there. So you're getting an inaccurate view of what's happened. So I look for people who are serious. I want to know why I do what I do. Why am I the way I'm at? Why do I have prophetic dreams? Why can I sense energy? Why am I a lot more empathic than most other people are? Why do light bulbs shut off when I get angry? I want answers. You know, and I always say to people, it's not fun being me. Everybody says, "Oh, that's so cool." It's like, really? Do you want to have a dream where people are being shot to death in a gymnasium? Because I've had that dream, and 2 days later had it come true.
Mm.
So believe you me, when you can smell it, touch it, hear it, feel it, taste it, it's suddenly not so cool anymore.
Yeah, not pleasant.
No, and you can't exactly go running to law enforcement and say, I had this dream. Because now they're looking at you go, well, who do you know in Northern Illinois? So, where were you last week? I mean, literally, it's not, there's no way to explain what I do. So years ago, you guys are aware of the Ryan Research Center?
Yes.
That's Lloyd Auerbach. I had worked with them trying to figure some of it out. They were great resources. They taught me how to control some of it. In other words, how to lucidly back myself out of a dream, which has always been something I was challenged to do. They also helped me work with, I can sense certain earthquakes that are coming. I can tell you within a 48-hour frame when certain areas are going to have large earthquakes. I can feel it. I actually get a pitch in my ear. And we actually narrowed that down to probably a geomagnetic movement that for some reason I'm very sensitive to the frequency. Whatever frequency it's hitting, for some reason I pick up on it. But to me, it translates to almost an off-air signal on a TV. Take that sound and multiply it by about 10,000, and that's what's going through my head. And to the point where I get nauseous. It literally puts me off balance. But that is a devastatingly accurate thing when I do that. But they taught me how to zero in. So in other words, they taught me how to work with my gifts, my ability to visualize. And when I'm hearing it, they literally taught me how to geolocate mentally where it's going to head. And it's very accurate. I'm very good at it. I hate doing it, but again, it's something that's kind of cool because I can actually say to somebody, hey, 2 days, this is going to hit, it's going to be here. In fact, the tsunami, the Japanese tsunami that hit, I knew 2 days ahead that was going to hit. And I said, you can't miss it. That was such a huge, I mean, it's funny because the closer they are to me, actually they're not as strong. So in other words, like the Japanese subduction zone, when that slips, that frequency for some reason is a lot stronger for me. Like that'll make me a really wicked type of nauseous. The Chilean subduction zone has got a different pitch to it. The subduction zone off Costa Rica has got a little bit of a different pitch to it. So, and by the way, y'all need to be keeping an eye on the West Coast of the United States. Just saying, big problems. But
and it's got to be a lot to be picking up all these frequencies, vibrations, or
everything I am is about
it's got to be overwhelming at
It,
times, right?
It is, but you learn to put it in its place. I mean, I'm 53 years old. I've been dealing with this since I was a child. And when you're a child and into your teenage years and you don't know what it is, that's really scary. I can tell you that. You can't talk to anybody. I mean, I couldn't even tell my parents. And the thing is, this is genetic. My mother is capable of a lot of this. My grandmother was capable of a lot of this. I'm the stronger of the three, but it's because I focused on it. I didn't deny it. Like my mother used to get horrible, nauseating headaches because she tried to shut it out. My grandmother didn't shut it out, but she never talked about it. And my mother for years would tell me it was because they're my family. I come from a Catholic family, and in Catholicism, a lot of this is not. It's considered, you're trifling with the devil when you do stuff like this. And I kept saying to my mom, I'm not an evil person. This is natural. I can't help it. I mean, help. What do I do? I mean, I had a prophetic dream about my brother having a horrible car accident. I tried to warn him. I was like 11 years old, and it happened anyway. And I'll never forget it because my brother came back. He was so upset. He said, don't you ever, ever do that again. He said, you know what? If you dream about me, I don't want to know. And I remember my mom took me to go see a priest because I was just destroyed. And the priest told my mother she needed to watch what I was reading, and that it was, the influence of Satan trying to get to me and work through me. And I remember I overheard my mother talking to my father, and that was it for me. I stepped away and I was in Catholic school at the time. I stepped away. I refused to be confirmed. I stepped completely away. So I just, to me, it was something where you can't label me. It's, again, I can't help it. It is genetic. There is a lineage here, and it actually goes back in our family Bible. It's documented where, I had two ancestors going back about 300 years who were actually excommunicated from the church for quote unquote witchcraft because they were healers. They were touch healers. So it's genetic. And like I said, that kind of spurred my curiosity. I looked into DNA research. The Russians at that point in time had actually liberated in a lot of ways. They had basically the Iron Curtain was beginning to fall. So they were releasing a lot of their scientific research, and Renz was publishing a lot of it. And let me tell you, when it comes to anything psychic, even though I hate that word, anything psychic between the Russians and the Chinese, they are so well documented as to the research they've done. And in opposition to the United States, who, by the way, yeah, they dabble in this stuff big time. Like, people like us are guinea pigs to them, but they don't want the general public to know, which I think is fun. I think they don't want to cause a problem with the evangelicals. All right, I can kind of get that. They also don't want our enemy to know what capabilities we have, but I kind of laugh because they already have those capabilities. I don't know what the heck what we're doing, the Russians have been doing. The Chinese actually are way ahead of us. And I think that's very interesting. They actually they'll find gifted young people who are capable of actual matter manipulation. And I know people roll their eyes at it and say that's not possible, but trust me, it is possible. Once you've learned how energy works and how energy can be manipulated, yeah, it's possible. It truly is. And it's not a matter of, it's truly a matter of what parts of your brain are functional. But they have young people over there that can actually will something to die. So they can will biological life to cease. Wow. And that's, yeah, and it's documented. It's not like scary, right? This is made up. They work with these kids and they get them very young. It's the Chinese, they kind of choose what you're going to do in life anyway. And the Russians, they went into the research of checking the DNA to see why some people were able to do this, some people weren't. And what they found was that, basically when you break the DNA down, it's built like a superconductor. And certain people, the way their double helix is, it literally allows for frequencies to conduct differently. And I thought, when I read some of these research papers, I was like, that makes so much sense. Like, I can get my head around that. I can't get my head around the ooh, no. The mysticism really annoys me. I can get my head around something solid like that. Quantum physics actually explains a lot of things also.
Yes, it does.
So there are things, like I said, I look for rational explanations. On ghost hunts, people love me and people hate me at the same time, because I'll be the first person to say to you, hey, no, that's not. Yeah, you are completely misunderstanding what's happening right now, but I don't, and know that little piece of dust on the camera, that is not your grandma. I will be the first person to tell people these things, but I'm also the person to say, you know, if you guys really want to learn how to ghost hunt and have an experience, shut everything off, including your equipment, because 99% of the time, you're not, with all that equipment around you, and routers running and everything else, there's so much EMF and frequencies that are tuning around you. It's very hard to discern. If you really want to learn how to listen to yourself and know when something is active or something's off in the environment, shut it all down. And don't even use a flashlight. I was like, you can literally, you have an electromagnetic field that surrounds your body. You can actually feel an object before you hit it. You can sense it, but you have to focus. Actually, that's how I trained my team. I used to take them into a sensory deprived environment and say, okay, guys, it's going to hurt the first time, and probably the second time, and probably the third time. You're probably going to have bruises all over your legs and your hips, but you're going to figure it out. And you're going to learn to put that hand out, and you're going to feel, it's not even, it's almost like a little bit of heat. It's a very interesting sensation, but you'll know when there's an object in front of you. You'll sense it.
Yeah.
And they did.
Yeah.
And I was like, then you're going to learn how to sense pressure drops, how to sense whether it's electric or whether it's natural, because a frequency from like a wire in a wall is very different than a natural frequency. It's very different from a natural EMF. There's a different feel to it. So I love this field. I mean, even the cryptoids, I love all of it because there's so much that you can learn if you just drop all your preconceived notions and look for rational explanations, but also keep in mind that there's a lot of things that we do not understand. You know, we are not the masters of the universe. I always say that to people. Humanity's so funny. You think we're so smart, and we are literally not even toddlers. Like we're almost an embarrassment. So, but we're capable of so much more. You know, again, I may not be of the same religious belief as 90% of this planet, but I will tell you there is a creator, and the creator did create us in his image. And I'm pretty sure he did not create idiots. I'm pretty sure that what we're doing right now was not at the behest of the creator. It was at the behest of people who want to control creation, because we are capable of so much more than what we do.
I've been
And I would
learning a
say
lot about basically
10%.
sensory deprivation chambers, which people are talking about. I mean, you go in a chamber and they just totally black you out. I mean, everything is gone. And then they say once you hit about 90 minutes, man, it really, your mind just opens way up. Like things just change on people.
People say
It's
it's
like a
very
whole different level of meditation than people don't even understand.
ayahuasca. People have told me that it's very similar to ayahuasca, which, by the way, I've had multiple people in this field try to talk me. I've never done a drug in my life, folks, to tell you that. Never done a drug, and I do not drink alcohol. I don't alter what I am or who I am because very honest, I'm a control freak. So I don't like to feel out of control in any way, shape, or form. And I don't like to have anything else influence. So in other words, if I'm not in complete control of my energy, other things can influence me. And do you guys, are you familiar with, years ago, there was an investigator by the name of Patrick Burns. I don't know if you all know him. He
Yes.
works at,
No, I haven't.
okay, so Patrick did an event with me in like, let's see, I think it was 2007. And he knows who I am and he knows what I was capable of and what was rumored at that time. And he says, I want to do an experiment with you. And Patrick he's another one. He's very, like me, he's very book read. He believes in the sciences, and he tries to prove through the sciences. So he says, I've heard that you can trip up pretty much anybody's equipment, depending. I said, well, yeah. I said, and if I get upset, I said, I will actually shut your equipment off and I will kill your batteries. And so usually if I get upset, I will excuse myself from the investigation because otherwise nothing's going to work for anybody.
Wow.
And he says, really? He says, well, have you ever, he goes, what did he say? Does alcohol affect it or whether or not you sleep well? I said, no, sleep doesn't really affect me because I'm a person who I only require 3 to 4 hours of sleep a night and I'm fully functional. I said, yes, I mean, I used to be an EMT. I said, doctors have actually checked to make sure. I said, it's not a sleep deprivation issue. It's just my body doesn't require as much sleep as most people do. Okay. So he says, so if I give you a shot of alcohol, he goes, because he put the EMF meter up to me. He says, it's not doing anything. I said, no, why would it? We're comfortably talking. We're outside. We're good. I'm not zoning into anything. I'm not, I'm good. I'm very calm. We're good. He says, well, what if you drank? I was like, well, I don't drink. He goes, well, yeah, I know. He goes, so it shouldn't take much. What if you drank? Have you ever done that to see if it changes? I said, no. Okay. Because let's just try one shot. I am not joking. I pegged his meter. We waited 10 minutes after I took the shot. And when he put the EMF, the K2 up to me, it buried. And we're in the middle of a room. Like we're not up against a wall or even near a light or anything else. And we're still trying to think, okay, routers. I'm looking for any excuse in the book. And so he says, okay, well, go over there. And he points over on the other side of the room. He goes, go stand over there. Okay. So I walk over the other side of the room and the meter goes back down again. And so he turns around, he starts walking slowly towards me and the damn thing starts going back up again. And I'm like, oh. We did it 4 times. And he goes, you really do. He goes, you're putting off a signal. He goes, that's you. And I said, yeah. He goes, you don't have your phone on you? I was like, no, my phone's over on the bar. You told me to leave the phone on the bar. It's over on the bar. He's like, I don't wear watches or anything like that. I said, the only thing I wear is the sigil never comes off. These do not come off my body ever. I said, so silver, that's it. Silver and moonstone. Only things on me besides my rings. Couldn't figure it out. He was just like, that is crazy. That is you. You are physically doing it. I said, well, yeah, I'm drunk. I can't control it. I said, when I'm sober, I can control my energy in, my energy out. I said, that's why I don't like drinking. I said, because what I'm pushing out, here's what you're not owning or seeing. Anything that's in here with me right now that has malintent is going to be able to get through. I said, normally I can keep them out without a problem. I said, but if I'm drunk, I don't go into haunted locations when I'm drunk because it's stupid and it's asking for trouble. He says, really? He goes, you're really concerned about that? I was like, yeah, I'm concerned about it. I said, not that it's stronger than I am. It's just, I am very protective over myself. Nothing has permission to touch me or be near me, period. If I say, that's fine, or respond to me, that's good. I said, I'm in control, not them, me. I said, and I've always run my investigations like that. Otherwise, you're going to have, I said, people complain about things following them home. Well, that's because you're an idiot. Excuse the language. That's because you went in there and you played with something you did not understand. And you called it out thinking you were going to be this demonologist. And you have no clue what you're messing with. And it's not necessarily even a demon. I'm not a real big proponent of demonology. I don't necessarily believe in demons. I believe there's what I call neutrals, and I believe there's definitely good and evil. But I also believe a lot of it is perceptional. I mean, I've been in haunted locations where objects have moved and people are, oh, it's demonic. Oh, it's moving something. No, you asked it to move something and it did it. How does that equate to demonic? It just, oh, I'm nauseous. Well, yeah, that's because there's a lot of EMF in the air right now. And that's going to nauseate you and probably give you a headache. I mean, but these are things that you guys know this. Yeah, I'm sure you both have run into this multiple times. And it's a hysteria. When people start with the whole, it's evil, it's this, it's that. What does it do? It gets everybody with a preconceived notion. And now you have an energy floating around the environment that's not good. And that feeds that environment. I always say what you get back many times is a result of what you're putting in.
Manifest it.
That's why when we do like
Mhm.
residentials, one of the first questions we ask is, number one, are you on any prescriptions? That's number one. Number two is there an emotional problem in the house? Are you all fighting? Is there a teenager that's got anxiety or hormonal? I mean, there are levels of energy that you're feeding into an environment. If you're fighting with your husband every day and there is something in that house, and even if it's Grandma Sally, who's in the home, who, baked you cookies your whole life and never said a nasty thing in her life to anybody, if you're feeding a nasty energy and that's what's allowing her to strengthen, what do you think is going to come back? That's not a demon. That's Grandma Sally, but you've been spoon feeding her something she shouldn't be having. So again, it's a responsibility when we do these things. It's not a joke. It is a responsibility. Do we have fun when we do it? Yeah. But, and I always say that, I always think it's crucially important to be yourself when you're on these investigations. Never, ever, ever think that anything can conquer you or is stronger than you. Always be respectful, no matter what. That's why I always tell people Ouija boards, that's kind of really disrespectful. Because again, looking at the time periods of most locations where we deal with, they were aware of what Ouija boards were. And to them, that's evil. You're playing with Satan. What are you doing? I mean, and to bring that into their house, it's a disrespect, complete disrespect. And if you truly think you're dealing with something evil, a demon, whatever, then you need to call the Catholic Church, not the demonologist down the street. You need to call the people who were trained to chant and know how to modulate frequency, because that is what gets rid of it. The power of prayer, absolutely. But what is prayer? Prayer is a modulated frequency. Why do they use Latin? Again, the way Latin, the frequency dictates how it comes out. Even witches, people say when a witch casts a spell. I will tell you, as a witch, the secret to spell casting is the frequency. It's your modulation. It's the way you're modulating your vowels specifically. It's all about acoustics. And yes, it does allow energy to manipulate. But again, people say, well, that's unrealistic. That's hoodoo, voodoo, that's imaginative. No. What do you think our military's weapons are? They're acoustical, a lot of them. And what is it doing? It's modulating a what? A frequency.
Everything is frequencies and vibrations. I mean, everything boils down to it. I'm a firm believer of that.
Even humanity we are nothing. We are actually not solid. And I tell people this all the time, go look it up. You are literally billions of oscillating particles that are kept together. The oscillation actually holds you together. That's why we have a magnetic field that surrounds our bodies. You don't ever actually touch anything, period. It's your brain. Your brain is sending a message. Oh, look, touch. Okay, feeling. Okay. It actually tells you how to feel or respond, but you don't actually feel anything. So, and that's why I say, that's why when people get in car accidents when they're sleeping, a lot of times they don't have an injury. And again, as an EMT, I can tell you this is true. People say, well, how is that possible? It must have been because they were in such a relaxed position. Yes and no. They weren't aware they hit anything. So it's the awareness many times that causes the injury. Do you understand? So it's look at, and again, this is not me telling you hoodoo, voodoo, witchcraft, things that are not proven. This is science, guys. Okay, go look it up. Go read about it. You can find papers on it everywhere. This is science. This is physics, actually. And like I said, if you really want to understand some of what we seek, study physics, study quantum physics, study nuclear physics. There's many explanations that they're starting to finally begin to see. And I still think they're way off the mark on some of it. And I keep saying that. I think we still don't have a real...
There's a lot not known still. a lot.
It's
We're not
very
even
common.
close.
Well, actually, a farmer put this to the test. And I don't know if you realize this. So, under plants, if you flip the leaf over, there's microscopic holes called stigmatas, right? And in the morning, people get mad because they hear birds chirping. In those birds chirping, scientists realize that those birds chirping activates those stigmatas underneath the base of the plants, of the leaves and everything, what stimulates that plant or whatever to grow. So this farmer out in Nebraska realized this, and he put it to theory. So he went out to his cornfield, ladies and gentlemen, and played classical music to his corn. What happened? His corn grew to over 14 feet tall. Now his neighbors thought he was crazy. This actually, ladies and gentlemen, actually happened. So does the frequencies actually happen in nature? Yes, and that farmer put it to test. Now there are countries that are using frequencies not only to grow things, but also, like I said on other shows, to cure illness that are not curable by modern medicine. But here in America and other countries, you're not allowed to use it. So go figure.
Well,
I know a
not
lot of
just
people's going on Google looking at that stigmata right now, but that's just an interesting tidbit.
it's not just that, but even like the aurora borealis, and I tell people all the time, you realize that the aurora actually has a sound. It has an extreme low frequency that actually some humans can. It's kind of like the Taoist hum. Some people can hear it, not all can. It just depends on how your DNA is and whether or not you're tuning in. But the aurora has a frequency to it. I was like, that's why when we have solar flares and people don't, again, they don't understand the connection between the aurora and the flares. I'm like, it's because it's all the ions. It's hitting our atmosphere and it's causing this beautiful display, but it's also causing a massive frequency to the planet. That's why we end up with having crustal earth movements and things as such. It's because of the frequency. It's actually repelling around the planet. People just, they don't understand how all these things work together. And
they also don't understand that solar flares cause a lot of sickness out there. There's a lot of flus and everything else get triggered off of solar flares alone.
Well, they cause sickness, and that's from the ELFs, the extreme low frequencies. And those are dangerous. Those you've got to be very, very, very bad for the human body, very bad for any actually biological organism. But in fact, it was interesting because they had that movie that was released on Netflix that the Obamas produced. I forget what it was called. It's about that. It's like the prophecy of the end times, where they were showing basically everything that we know is coming, a cyber attack that's going to take
Talking about leave the world behind, the new one.
That was it. Do you know that there is an extreme low frequency embedded into that movie?
Well, no.
Yeah. And you can look it up. There is one embedded. And I was like, what? There is no reason on this planet for an extreme low frequency to be in any kind of production film that people are watching. It's dangerous. What are you talking about? Went through, and I didn't believe it at first because I read the article on it and I listened to the video, and I'm like, still didn't quite believe it because I'm like, nobody's that bold. And put it through Adobe Audition.
They are.
Yep, I put it through Adobe Audition, and sure enough, it shows up. And I'm like, oh, wow, they really did. They embedded it. Wow. But, again, humanity is just what I think we're at a stage right now where there's going to be a one-up. And I think a lot of people like me have felt this. They know it's coming. As I like to say, we're staring down the barrel of the gun. We are there. Okay? It's whatever event is coming, we're there. We've all been feeling it. I think you guys know a lot of other people. I can tell you for at least the last 10 years, at least the last decade, I have felt something coming, and it gets stronger and stronger and stronger every year. And I had thought I had a dream that told me it was going to happen at the end of 2023. But I'm telling you, whatever it is, it's coming, and it's coming very quickly. And there's really no stopping it. It is coming. And it's going to be, I think, very difficult for a lot of people because they're going to have to reassess how they think, how they feel, how they act. Because I have to tell you, like I said, there is a creator, guys. I might be what you guys would define as a pagan, but I will tell you there is a creator, and we got a lot of explaining to do as his children, because we have really abused, and not on purpose. I mean, I think a lot of people you're just trying to go day to day, and this is the society that we are in, and this is how it's run, and this is how it's been built, but we're not doing it right. I can tell you that.
It could be a rude awakening, that's for sure.
Yeah.
You heard it, ladies and gentlemen. It's not coming from me anymore. Somebody different.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're
you're
in
not the only
trouble.
one I've heard it. There's a lot of people that you can almost feel it, right?
It's
You really
palpable.
can.
It really is palpable, and people are waking up to it more and more because of world events. And I keep telling people, what did you think was going to happen? What did you think was going to happen? You can see all these pieces being put into motion 20, 30 years ago. What did you think? They weren't going to pull the pin? Of course they were. That this could never happen, especially not in America. Of course it could. Why? Because we become lazy. We have become distracted. We have allowed them to label everything, and we've let the labels interfere with everything. That's kind of important. We've made it about money over family. We have really created a big problem.
A lot of enemies out there in this world. A lot of people don't like us.
No, and here's the thing, can you blame them?
No,
I
can't.
mean, our government has stacked both sides of the deck for decades now. For decades. They have funded pretty much both sides of every battle. And Big Pharma has done it also. And that's,
Mhm.
I mean, like I said, there are things you can put your finger on that definitely need to go away. Like, should have gone away a long time ago. But nobody wanted to hear it. Big Pharma was going to save everybody, that magic pill that was just going to make everything bad go away. No, folks, if you live right, things tend to go better. If you stop cutting corners to make a dollar, things tend to go a little bit better. I mean, when profits are the most important thing, your health doesn't mean anything to them.
Nope.
I mean, they're
Zero.
micros. I would say to somebody, there are microplastics in your bottled water.
I never forget when I made that announcement on one of the shows. People are like, what?
It doesn't matter.
250 million particles per bottle?
Yeah.
That's
And
a
there's
lot.
glyphosate in our aqueducts. I'm like, the United States aqueducts have literally retardedly bad levels of glyphosate in them. You know why? Because all of those Monsanto spliced crops that they were planting they were spliced, part of that process used glyphosate. Didn't matter if those crops were on the land or not. We still have rain, okay? So you have condensation, evaporation. The glyphosate doesn't dissipate, it goes up and then comes back down. We also had runoff. You had all these things. It got into the aquifers, and now it's so prevalent in the aquifers. It's not funny. You guys familiar with Matt Moniz? He was
I heard of him.
I know Matt's one of my best friends. One of the things Matt does is he tests aquifers all over the country. He's a graduate of MIT. He's one of the most brilliant men I've ever met in my life. But he'll tell you the amounts of glyphosate in our drinking water is ridiculous, like ridiculous. And yeah, it causes big problems. He thought that might have been somewhat behind autism. And he actually, not only does he do that, but he works currently for a company that develops vaccines. In fact, I say it to him, so, did you get the jab? And he was like, well, we had to for work. And I was like, and how are you feeling about that right about now? And he's like, well, yeah, probably wasn't a good idea. And I was like, well, I was in the medical field. When have you ever heard of a vaccine that could be developed in less than 6 months? It takes 12 years minimal to develop a vaccine. Why? Because you have to know the long-term side effects I was like, 6 months, that's what? No, what? Oh, you don't know. You're going to let people shoot you up and you don't know what it's going to do to you in 2 to 3 years, 10 years. And the little ones, it could sterilize them. You don't know what it's going to do. And it's an mRNA vaccine, no less. So it's messing with your genetics. Yeah.
That's all right. We have politicians telling us that we need illegals to come in our country because our produce is rotting in the ground because nobody is picking them. Then we have politicians in New York City wanting you to host illegals in your private residence to put them up. I mean, what the hell? I mean,
yeah, that's not happening.
Anyway.
Well, now see where the IRS put the that new tax thing where they're going after the small businesses now.
Oh
on
yeah,
taxes.
Yeah, I got a notification right away.
Yeah, trying to strangle them. It's trying to strangle them out is what they're trying to do.
They're going after money launderers.
Yeah, I mean,
I have to file.
Small business is what drives our country.
They're going after LLCs.
It's the middle class that either breaks or makes a country. And it's the middle class that they're trying to wipe out. And they're doing a darn good job of it.
So no, Scott, she doesn't have those. She's got ivories of steel, is what I call them. is what Nancy has. So I want to make sure and use the right context.
One of those.
Well, we got all kinds of flags going off on all these platforms right now. We're ticking, tick, 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 tick.
Certain keywords, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, we're being flagged. But no, it's, I didn't want to get involved in all that. But it's sad, I mean, the stuff they trying to pass in those bills is just ludicrous, and they will pass it.
Yeah. So because they got the uniparty, they're all one party. They pretend to be different parties, and ultimately, it's just a show.
They're the Green Party, and not the one that means world health. It's money.
Not green for you and me. They're taking our green and shipping it elsewhere.
Well, and they're trying to hide the fact that they don't have green because now they want to do a digital currency. Nothing says we're broke like a digital currency.
That would be the ultimate control. Then they can see everything you spend. They can shut you down if you aren't buying the right products or your products aren't green friendly. Oh, well, let's social credit you and limit your accesses, limit your travel, limit everything, So
have y'all not been keeping up with any of these bills? So they're actually in 2026 trying to pass a bill on the federal statutes that all car manufacturers will have the automatic shut off.
Shut off. Yeah. You don't pay your bill, it'll kill your car.
No, law enforcement has the opportunity to disengage your vehicle.
Yep.
Yes. Now, what they're worried about is everybody with Bluetooth devices be able to hack that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's wild.
Or AI.
Mean, people don't keep up with this stuff. It's crazy because people in America are oblivious to the truth.
Anything that's hackable or controllable like that, AI can take advantage in the future.
I was going to say, here's the thing. My career, outside the paranormal, I think, Grizzly, you know this, I'm a certified ethical hacker. I do cybersecurity for a living. And the one thing I can tell you is Bluetooth is so easily hackable. It's not even funny. It's like 1, 2, blink, and there you go. I was saying to somebody, the most non-secure sites are the government sites. Our government. I was like, their sites are so not secure. They all use Microsoft products, and Microsoft is not secure at all. It's very easy to hack.
I was told that one of the utility companies, water being the key one, I don't remember what city, but it got hacked by an outside country, and it inflated the chlorine levels to a substantially high level, dangerous levels.
That was Oldsmar, Florida, my love. That was right down the street. Was it really?
That was right here. Okay. See how they cover that up? They don't even tell anybody.
That happened about 2 years ago. And I said to somebody, that's a penetration sting. Okay, that's a test. They were testing to see if they could do it because it did get caught. But then they did it again. 2 years later, they did it in Pennsylvania. And that was just recent that they did it up there. And I'm like, I said to somebody, so let me get this right. I said, small businesses got this letter from CISA earlier in the year and last year also, where they were telling them that they're moving in to make it a law that these businesses are going to be required to train their employees in cybersecurity and what makes it dangerous, they're going to be required to have a game plan for cybersecurity in case they're hacked. And yet our water utilities are still getting hacked, even though they were already hacked once. Nobody ever enhanced their cybersecurity. What? Our nuclear energy buildings are being hacked. And it's
Electric?
not the first.
The grid?
Oh, no, not the electric, not just the no, they've gotten into the military end of it also. And like I said, these are things that, are you kidding me? Are you really kidding me right now? Because they should be the most secure things on the planet when it comes to the cyber end of things. And they're not. They're not. Your banks, I mean, yeah, your bank account might be secure, but Zelle is not. I mean, none of the cash apps that you're using, they're not secure. They're not. End of sentence. I mean, and again, we're all required to keep everything as locked down as we can because we're supposedly going to be responsible if we get hacked and people's information gets out. But apparently nobody else is being held responsible.
No, it's
just right.
a scary word. It's definitely a concern out there. I would think that's our biggest next fear. I mean, they're telling us that the World Economic Forum straight out saying it. You should be worried about the next big cyber attack. Klaus Schwab has flat out said it to us.
At this point, I don't even think. Just make sure you have things in your house. And by the way, I saw that little comment, what kind of water can you drink? Mm-hmm. Honestly, if I were you, I would make sure I had a filtration system. I would just use tap water, but have a filtration system that's going to allow that glyphosate to filter out.
AquaPure is a good one.
Yeah, but even the filtration systems, be careful. I mean, we're so stupid. You want to take out the population, just use something that, like, I would make my own filter. I would actually go get charcoal, basically cheesecloth, and make my own filter for the water. I wouldn't trust anything that's sold because most of them are made in China. And these are people who have good reason to want to harm us. And our air conditioning, our water, these are things that they could really hit us with. I always say that the HVAC systems and the air conditioning, oh boy. You put something in like the, what are they called? The filters. You could easily line those filters with something that could very easily put something into the air in the house. It just, and can you imagine a Floridian doing without air conditioning? You live in Florida. I live in Florida.
Hell, I couldn't even stand the damn weather.
No. But again,
yeah, it
like
gets
I said,
hot. A lot of people melt, that's for sure.
No. But boy, we got off the subject of the paranormal, and that was my fault.
No, that's
you never know where
paranormal, cryptid, and conspiracy. So we're all in there.
It's funny because I was because my show, the All New Cafe Enigma, we do conspiracy, and we do current news, current updates, and conspiracy, and actually UFOlogy here and there. But you guys know Jack Carey, right?
Yes.
I have Jack on quite a bit. He and I
cool.
we love being on together because I can go 1-for-1 with him on the cryptids. I mean, we were actually talking about the hitchhiker effect, and I was telling him, well, isn't that kind of like in quantum physics? Wouldn't that just be like the electron effect, where you have the ability of one electron here, quantum entanglement, one electron here, one electron
One's
here,
affected equally.
Correct. And he's like, but it's after the Pentagon people. I said, yeah, because the Pentagon people are the ones giving orders to mess with the areas that they're messing with. I was like, I'm pretty sure this is interdimensional. I mean, I don't know about anybody else, but it gives every single indicator of it. So
now the people on the Senate are saying, now there's a difference between interdimensional beings and whatever. I about died when they made that statement. Between interdimensional and something else. And I was like, really? That's not what he said. That's not what Griff said. Let's make sure. And I was like, come on. Brian Barber wants to know, for you, Nancy, what do you think about Bigfoot and Dogman?
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Okay, see, Dogman, this was something Jack and I talked about this on the air. Dogman, to me, there's something to that. And I said to him, not because of the Native American, yes and no on the Native American. I said, but if you look at what Dogman is described as and how people describe the physical attributes who have had the encounters with him, it's Anubis from ancient Egypt. I said, and what makes it very, very interesting is that Dogman is associated to the Native Americans. I said, now there's been many rumors for many years that it kind of combines the Native Americans and says they were actually an amalgamation of descent and DNA, and that Egyptian was part of their genetic makeup. I could believe that because of the way they're structurally, if you look at their bone structures, the Egyptians as well as the Native Americans, it's a very similar bone structure. So I'm like, yeah, I could actually see that that's very possible. I mean, we don't know. People assume that Native Americans extended from the migration over the bridge in Alaska. That doesn't have to be true. I mean, the Polynesians could easily have gotten here by boat. They were boat masters. They have been for multiple thousands of years. They could easily have made it. I mean, there's several actual races that they lived completely on the sea. To sit there and think that the only people who made it across the ocean are the modern Western explorers, that's just ridiculous. It gets me so upset when people say, oh, the Columbian, we're pre-Columbian society. I'm like, pre-Columbian society? Yeah, well, explain to me how we have all these runes. that would be the Nords. And yep, they were pre-Columbian. You have a lot of Polynesian evidence over on the West Coast. You have evidence of Egyptians being here in both Mexico and the Grand Canyon. I mean, there's quite a bit here that tells us that for thousands of years, they have been coming back and forth.
She said the Grand Canyon. I'm not the only one.
Well, it's there. I looked it up after you told me about it.
Yeah. People don't believe me. I'm like, what the hell?
I didn't say I didn't believe you. I just had to look into it. I'm like, what the hell is all this about?
Well, people say
it's a weird anomaly.
People don't try to cough it up to, that could have come with, modern people coming over here and, heirlooms and this and that. I'm like, buried in the Grand Canyon. Oh, that doesn't make any sense. You people are just ridiculous. I mean, it's not that hard to say, hey, guess what? In fact, I've heard a rumor or a theory that y'all have heard about, you've got the 12 tribes of Israel, and then you had the 13th tribe of Israel that supposedly disappeared, correct?
Yes.
I have heard, I can't tell you how many times now, that the Native Americans in this country were the 13th tribe. And
somebody else told me that last year, and it made me stop and think.
Yep, it makes a very weird sense. Again, there is a similar bone structure similarity to that area of the world. And they look similar. In fact, I've said to Rafi, even today, the Latino Native American, if you look, people who are Native American by descent in the Latino countries, a lot of times it's very hard to discern them from Middle Easterners because they look almost identical. The only way you can tell the difference is when they start speaking.
Same thing with, from Mexico, Central America through our Native American Indians to even like Native Canadians, Alaska, all that region, all the way over. I mean, it's amazing how similar all that is actually.
You can tell by like the Aleutians. If you go up to Alaska and start looking at the Alaskan tribes, the Aleutians you can definitely tell have Mongolian or Mongoloid or Far Eastern. You can see it in their features.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, it blows my mind when people become so set in stone. Oh, the Clovis. Well, where the hell did the Clovis come from? You're saying that the seed of humanity was either in Europe or in Africa, because now there's that debate. It may not have been in Africa. It may have actually been Eastern Europe. Okay. But you're not saying anything about the Americas. So how did people start in the Americas? Because they were here.
They were definitely here.
And the people here in Florida, that's the other very interesting thing. You're a fellow Floridian. In St. Augustine, a lot of people don't, and I am very familiar with St. Augustine, big time. When Menendez came, because people don't realize that Menendez preceded Ponce de Leon. Okay? He was here first. When Menendez sailed into St. Augustine, the tribe that was in St. Augustine, the natives that were there, were between, their women in height were between 6'5" and 7 foot, and their men were between 7 foot and 7'5". They were giants. Okay, and there's evidence of this. Obviously, we have the remains. The tribe was completely wiped out by Menendez because of smallpox. So, I mean, wiped them out. But they were
brought a disease
giants.
to them.
Yeah. And then you have to imagine the Europeans were short shits, excuse the language. They were like, I mean, their average male was like 5'4". It was the Norwegians and the Nords, they had some taller, the Scots had some taller people. But the Western Europeans were short. The men were very, very short. So, and they've said that it's the mixture in a lot of ways. In America, the reason a lot of our men are taller is because we have a lot of Nordic blood here. We have a lot of Germanic blood here. We have a lot of Scottish blood over here because of all the mixtures in the melting pot. But yeah, the average height back then was like 4'5". So I would have been
Look at all the Indian mounds with all the giant bones that have been discovered throughout the U.S. I mean, they're 7, 8, 9 foot tall giants that have existed, and it was a normal thing at one point in time.
Well, that's it. And like I say, there's always, for every legend, for every myth, there's a truth behind it. And sometimes it's very hard to find or discern what that truth is. But you always have to keep in mind there's something that started that myth or that story or that lore. There's always a piece of truth somewhere in the story. The fun part is
there's fire.
That's it. I mean, like I say, even the Bible mentions giants. Okay, Goliath was a giant. Goliath's brother was a giant. Goliath came from a tribe of giants. I believe wasn't it the land of Nod? I believe they came from. But I mean, they were considered sons of the Nephilim. I mean, again, throughout history, we have mention of that. In United Kingdom, what is now the United Kingdom, there were always legends of giants in their hills, to the point where they drew them into the sides of their hills. I mean, even Jack and the Beanstalk. Jack and the Beanstalk was a fairy tale written by the Brothers Grimm, put into their fairy tale book. However, there was a truth to it. Vampires. This is where I really, vampires and werewolves, I really get into this one, because I was like, folks, did you ever wonder why it's always silver that kills them? Kind of that little nozzle truth, like silver killed them because silver kills what? Bacteria.
Yep. That's why I have silver bullets. That's why I have holy water. That's why I have crucifixes. I am prepared. Now, your take on Dogman and Wolfman, are they the same?
I think Dogman, like I said, I think there's a reality to that because, again, you have a historical record. It's like Mothman. Mothman wasn't just seen in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. There are records of a Mothman-like being that go all the way back. I mean, so Mothman, that happened in the late 60s, right? And there were witnesses who drew pictures of Mothman. Do you know that in I believe it was 82, they were doing a dig in Arizona and they uncovered a piece of what they're calling the Thunderbird. Okay, it was a Thunderbird item that had been buried. It was a statue. It looks identical to the Mothman drawings.
Oh wow!
I mean, identical. In fact, I showed Jack that. I sent it to Jack Carey. He was like, "Holy crap! I didn't know about that." I was like, "Yeah," and it was unearthed after the fact. I said, "It's been dated." So, and if you go to Europe, there are stories of something very similar to what the Mothman is, who did the same thing, and it's always the same type deal where it was prophetic. I mean, a moth in any context is usually a messenger. It's kind of like the raven. The raven is a messenger bird. The moth is actually a sign of messenger. not evil, but a messenger. So I honestly, that event happened. I do believe Dogman is real. I think that Dogman might be an interdimensional because, like I said, you've got Anubis, and I've said to people again, you can't tell, you don't know Anubis wasn't a hybrid. We do not know if we had advanced civilizations well before us that the church has now completely buried any information on. It's probably hidden somewhere in the Vatican vault. But again, we don't know if we weren't doing chimeric type experimentations in a society 2,000 years ago. What makes us think that we are this is the only evolution of mankind that got to that level? What makes us think we were the only intelligent life that's ever inhabited this planet? Again, you have to think things through. What makes you think there aren't other dimensions? We've proven there are.
All right,
Yeah,
I
you can
got a
look at
good
a
one. I've been dying to ask somebody, and you are a great candidate since you
Mhm.
are very wise. Now, I asked this on one of my shows, and it flipped people out. I don't know if Chris knows this. So let's look at the Sphinx, right? The Egyptians are very architectural, right? So they put everything to size. So we have a statue that's 270 feet long by 70 feet high. Why the hell is that head is not the appropriate size for that statue? Now we know Napoleon shot a cannonball and blew off the nose. Now, when his army found that Sphinx out in the desert, only the head was shown.
It
How
was
do you think
buried.
that Sphinx is?
Honestly, I think they've skewered the timeline because it doesn't fit their agenda. I think the Sphinx is probably about 20,000 years old.
There we go. Somebody
That's,
that thinks the same thing I do.
yeah, I think it's a lot older than they tell us.
I think all
Even
that stuff's a lot older than what they tell us. The pyramids. I mean, look at all the ancient stuff in Peru, all
Yep.
the giant monoliths out there. I mean, none of this makes sense. There's got to be an ancient technology that existed that was
Like
well
I said,
before us.
I think that society has risen and fallen several times. I think, the Tower of Babel, that's one representation of advancement and a fall from advancement. In fact, I've said to people, do you ever stop and think that maybe the Tower of Babel was like a Wi-Fi tower? Or that it was, I mean, did you ever think that people were actually telepathic before that? I said, because it was all one language. Well, guess what? Telepathy would be all one language. And if that got shut down, you would have to learn to speak or communicate or orally enunciate, and that would be regional.
People don't think about it. Telepathy proves that standard physics is false because it's actually faster than light.
Yes.
It
But
proves quantum entanglement because people that know and feel something that's happening a long
that is
distance away and have no clue about it, and you pick the phone up and oh crap, it's actually happening.
this is why I hate
Those things
say
prove.
the science. I hate it when they say it because to me the speed of light is bullshit.
Yeah,
That is a
exactly.
bullshit thing they wanted people to focus on so they could say this is why we can't travel through space, even though we're already traveling through space. We just don't want you to know about it. Literally,
It's a
it's a
paradigm.
yes. Well, not even that. It's they're forcing us to focus on something that doesn't work. When in actuality, they already figured it out. They already have the equation. I've said that so many times. I'm like, guys, you don't even know. I mean, when you have Ben Rich from Skunkworks giving public speeches and telling people point blank, listen, we've already traveled the stars. We already have the technology to travel the stars. We already been there, done that. And it's going to take an act of God to get the government to admit it.
It
Literally,
won't.
that was the guy who headed up Skunkworks. That's Lockheed Martin. That is their top secret engineering program. There's a project called Solar Warden. Go look it up. Go look into it. You make your own decisions if it's real or not.
Solar
Because
Warden.
it's our space force, supposedly.
Mm.
Again, did you really think the Star Wars under Ronald Reagan was just a bunch of, oh, well, we're not going to use them satellites up there? No. There's so much more to the, what do you think the Black Knight is? The Black Knight satellite that orbits the planet. People say, oh, it's just a rock. No. Have you ever seen a picture of it? Because that is not a rock. That is definitely an object. So again, folks, it's hard because they want you focusing on certain things. They don't want you looking at others. You know, speed of light, they want you to look at that and try to figure that out. How can man do that? Well, just the pressurization alone. There's no way you can move that fast in any object that we know of and any material that we know of right now without being completely crushed. Okay, just not going to happen. Can't move that fast, but your brain can. And like I said, what I do when I prophetically dream, and Grizzly and I talked about this on the show last time, where I told him I think I'm remote viewing. I think my consciousness is moving forward and backwards in time, and it's spatially going where it wants to. And for some reason, my consciousness is attracted to big events. It's not like anything, once in a while, it's a family member, once in a while, it's something local, but usually it's something major that's coming. I'm shown an event, like I said, you know, school shooting. That's perfect. That's what I wanted to see. Not. But volcanic eruptions. I had one that was, oh Lord, Vanuatu. And in the dream, 2 days before it erupted, here I was in the jungle of Vanuatu when this sucker erupted. And it was so bad, I could feel it melting my skin off. And I could feel it when I inhaled, it was burning. I could feel my lungs burning. Like my husband said, I woke up, I sat up, I couldn't breathe. He's like, you turned purple. I could not breathe. He had to like fully get me conscious. So yeah, I wish I didn't do that. I don't like having those dreams, but you know, I said there's got to be a reason behind it. You know, the creator doesn't allow you to do things or allow you to continue to do things if there's not something there that you're supposed to do. I think with me, it's to prepare people and to make people start believing in themselves and understanding that we all have these gifts. We are all capable of doing these things. It's a matter of trusting your instincts, relaxing, learning how energy works, and letting go. And I'm not saying you let go of all your inhibitions and become an idiot. No, you don't need to dance naked under the moon. I'm saying you relax and let go and let your consciousness go. I mean, because when I sleep, that's what I say. As soon as I hit REM, whoop, I'm gone. My consciousness goes on a walkabout, apparently. And it took, like I said, it took years to learn to control some of it. I had to learn how to draw myself a trap door in a dream and let myself out of a dream because some of them are just too much. It's too much emotionally for me to handle. But
imagine.
But we all do it. I mean, it's funny because my husband, black and white, federal law enforcement for many, many years, as he is as LEO as they come. And that's it. If he can't see it, touch it, smell it, hear it, it doesn't exist. When we sit and talk about things, he'll tell me about certain dreams he's had, and I'll be like, oh, that was metaphorical. I bet you this, and this happened, or this was happening in your life at the time. And he'll look at me and goes, how do you know that? Because those are metaphor. It's a metaphor and a pretty obvious one to me. But yeah, that I said, even if you don't have what I call a direct connect, where you're seeing an event or an object directly, 99.9% of the time, your dreams are something metaphorical for something your consciousness is weighing heavily in. There's no such thing as a trash dream. So I mean, I hate it when you hear scientists say that, oh, it's just a bunch of garbage. It's just your subconscious, you know, going through and throwing out the garbage. No, there's no such thing as a garbage dream, ever, period. Your brain is not garbage. Therefore, it does not give you garbage dreams.
Subconscious is proof of your soul. So
subconscious is proof of
there's a reason why it's there.
That's it. And that's why I say there are, like in Point Pleasant, there were it was like a soulless village. I guess that's the best way to say.
That had to be pretty creepy. I gotta say that had to be real creepy.
It was unsettling. I mean, I'm moving, I'm shifting because it was so uncomfortable for me. It just, and I kept thinking it was me. I kept thinking something was wrong with me. I'm like, what the hell? What am I off? What is wrong with me? I must be really tired. Couldn't figure it out. And it wasn't until I met Brent years later, and he told me what had happened with his mom and his connection to Mothman. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay. So I was standing at ground zero and didn't even know it. And I'm empathic. which makes it even worse because I'm picking up all these weird things and I have no way to explain it.
So was
So I'm
Mothman warning about the accident on the bridge that was
yes,
going to happen?
yes, absolutely. It was a prophetic warning. And if you actually, I mean, that was the thing. If you actually read the book, and Brent actually knew the author of the book, Mothman Prophecies.
Alan Greenwell, Greenspan,
Oh,
Alan something.
so,
Can't remember his name.
forget his name, but
Anyway,
you're right. He used a pen name when he wrote the book, but it was the actual journalist that he talks about. That was him. That he
okay.
authored the book. But he'll tell you he lost time. Like when on that drive, that actually happened to him, and I don't disbelieve that because I know people personally who that happened to in like Philadelphia, in Pennsylvania, driving 76, where they literally lost like 2 hours of time. And not just one person, like several people I know, and not related to each other at all. Just people who say, I had that happen. And it's always that up that in that area of the Northeast. And it makes me wonder, is there some kind of a vortex there? Or is there something electromagnetically different up there that's causing that? Now I can
Isn't
tell
there a
you that
latitude or longitude line that runs through there that has
a
weird
ley line,
things that happen? Yeah,
there are ley lines up there. And there's
yeah.
a ley line very close to Point Pleasant. Now, what I find very interesting about Point Pleasant, I had a dream about Point Pleasant. Oh, I want to say 2 years after I was there. And I dreamt of these military tunnels. Again, no knowledge of this area at all. I kept dreaming of these military tunnels, and I kept saying it was the same dream type of tunnels I was seeing in the Hudson, where it was 2x2s. I was like, these were like they were running consecutively sideways, and it was two. They're all in twos, and I can hear like people on radios in these tunnels. And there's all these different languages being spoken, and the ones in Point Pleasant, I could see seashells in the tunnels, and I'm like, and they're moving vehicles through these tunnels. Didn't know it until 3 or 4 years later, and I was talking to a friend of mine in the military, and he was like, "Oh yeah, no, oh yeah, no, 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 no." Yep, the military definitely works out of that area. Yeah, because they don't make it real super public, but yeah, he goes, "There's a base there." He's like, "But it's it's for experimentation and stuff like that." He goes, "How the hell did you know that?" I'm like, "I don't really want to explain that to you right now," but. And again, the fact that I knew there were seashells in this, that's what really flipped him out. He goes, "How could you know that?" And I was like, dude, I could see it. It was, and actually I was walking through the tunnel in my dream and I didn't have shoes on. And they were ripping into my feet.
Wow.
And he's like, that is just crazy. I'm like, yeah, it's just my life. Welcome to my world. But, and that's why I say to people when I give people warnings and I say like this year, there's something very serious coming down the pipe. I'm not saying that to be an asshole, excuse the language. I am not saying that to scare you. I am saying that because guess what? Take that moment, make sure you have perishables and unperishables. Make sure you have extra canned food in your house. Make sure you have butane, propane. Make sure you have a way to cook that food. Make sure you have a way to keep warm, or if you're in the South, try to have like a battery operated fan. Because I don't think our power is going to stay up. I think they are going to take our infrastructure down.
They're
Whether it be a
telling us
cyber
that.
attack, yep, whether it be a cyber attack, whether it be an EMP, something is going to take our infrastructure down. Make sure you have water set aside. And like I said, even if you can't do the bottled water or don't want to do the tap water, get yourself charcoal. It's not hard to find. It's in any grocery store in their herbal section, believe it or not. And get yourself some cheesecloth and make yourself a makeshift filter where you can filter your own water. If you live in areas, make sure where you live, make sure you know where your natural resources are, become familiar with what type of plant life you can eat where you are. I can tell you everything I can eat out on my land, down to the grasses. And I'm not, again, it's not knowledge that's going to hurt you. If you
Well,
don't
look
need
at
it,
it
you
this
don't need
way:
it. Be
you don't
harmful.
drive around you don't drive around your vehicle without a spare tire, right? People don't
Correct.
knock that. There's nothing wrong with being prepared.
Yep.
It
Learn how to
actually kind of makes sense, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. People don't understand. Put the computers down, put the tablets down, get your hands on the earth. and figure it out. Because if everything electrical goes down, you're not going to have access to money. You're not going to have access to gasoline. You're not going to have access to your computer. You're not going to have access to your phones. You're not going to have access to do a lot of what we depend on every day. So you better figure out how our ancestors did it, because otherwise you're not going to survive. And even if you figure it out, I know most people are, I don't care if you're a gun proponent or you're not a gun proponent, you better have a weapon. Because everybody in the world who doesn't know what they're doing is going to try to take from those who do. Very simple.
And learn how to read a map again and get a map in case you have to travel. Yes, Google Maps won't be working.
I have been teaching my grandkids how to draw maps. I was like, you guys are my age. We had social studies. We had to draw maps like that was assignments. You had to like draw maps of Europe and name all the European countries and maps. You had to hand draw them. And it's like
they took the vital stuff away from kids these days. They don't teach any of that stuff now.
I know. I was trying to teach them to read the different symbols on maps too. I'm like, there's this river. Grandma, how do you know that? Because I'm older than dirt. That's how. Which they don't argue with me with, which is really insulting.
Yeah, right.
All right, I'm going to pick you guys up because my phone's about to die. So I got to find a charger.
How they get a hold of you, Nancy, and follow you?
Okay, guys. So you all can get a hold of me on Facebook under Charlotte Pagnotta, which is, obviously they labeled me that. That is my name on Facebook. You can also find me on Telegram. I'm in 8 or 9 different chats. I actually moderate 8 or 9, own several of them. But that I'm under Wiccan Vixen. Almost everywhere I'm under Wiccan Vixen. On Twitter, I'm Writer on the Storm. And I'm the only writer on the storm on Twitter. Or actually it's X now. It's my mistake. Our show, which is the All New Cafe Enigma, that airs every Wednesday evening. We go 9:30 Eastern Standard Time to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then we do an after show usually for an hour or two. And we do all access, and we're on multiple platforms with that show as well as multiple networks. So that's it. Or you can just drop me an email, wiccanvixen@gmail.com. Real simple.
Awesome.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's
great
always
conversation.
a pleasure.
We'll have to take this off the YouTube grid one day and do a Rumble version where we can talk freely.
I was going to say it's hard because YouTube flags everything.
Yeah.
I mean, even my friends who put up YouTube UFO videos, they flag everything. So it's
shame.
No more freedom of speech, gentlemen. No more freedom.
I know. You're right. Well, thank you very much. And from coast to coast around the world, everybody have a good night. Thank you all.
All right.
Bye-bye.